The Cowboys' final week just got complicated and controversial. Rumors are swirling about whether Dallas should actually tank in Week 18, while injury updates are forcing tough decisions and changing the outlook fast. Add in a Giants matchup loaded with hidden stakes and a rooting guide that could reshape draft position and playoff paths, and suddenly nothing is simple. Is losing strategically smarter than winning right now? Fans are split, insiders are whispering, and every outcome carries consequences. Week 18 isn't just a game, it's a crossroads for the Cowboys. Alright, buckle up, because what the Dallas Cowboys are facing right now is one of the most uncomfortable, controversial, and emotionally divided moments of the entire season, and it all comes down to one massive question nobody in Cowboys Nation wants to say out loud: are the Cowboys actually better off tanking in Week 18? Think about that for a second. A franchise built on pride, legacy, and America's team expectations is now staring at a situation where losing might help more than winning, and that alone tells you how wild this season has become. Week 18 isn't just another game. It's a crossroads, and the decisions made, intentionally or not, could shape the future of this roster for years. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Tanking. No team will ever publicly admit they're tanking, especially not the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones will never say it. The coaching staff will never say it. The players will absolutely never say it. But tanking doesn't always look like kneeling the ball on first down or benching everyone on purpose. Sometimes tanking shows up as playing it safe. It shows up as limited snaps for key players. It shows up as conservative game plans. And it shows up as prioritizing long-term health over a meaningless win. That's where the Cowboys are right now. A win in Week 18 feels good emotionally, but what does it really change? No playoff run. No Super Bowl path. Just a worse draft position and more wear and tear on a roster that already looks battered. And that brings us to the injury situation, which honestly might be the biggest reason this tanking conversation even exists. The Cowboys are limping into Week 18. This isn't a team that's missing one or two role players. This is a roster that has taken hit after hit at key positions. Defensive depth has been tested all season. Offensive line continuity has been shaky. Skilled players are playing through things they normally wouldn't if this were a must-win playoff game. And that's where logic starts to fight emotion. Do you really want Micah Parsons chasing a quarterback at full speed in a game that doesn't change your postseason fate? Do you want your starting quarterback taking unnecessary hits behind an offensive line that's been rotating bodies all year? Every snap matters, and every injury risk matters even more when your season goals are already off the table. What makes this situation even more complicated is the Giants. Because let's be real, beating the Giants always feels good. Rivalry games don't care about draft picks. They don't care about analytics. They don't care about front office strategy. Cowboys versus Giants is pride versus pride. It's fans in the stands. It's social media bragging rights. It's players who grew up watching this rivalry and want to leave their mark. And the Giants, even if they're not contenders, are not going to roll over. They'd love nothing more than to play spoiler, knock Dallas around, and end the season with a statement win of their own. That alone makes this game dangerous, because emotional games lead to risky moments, and risky moments lead to injuries. From a pure football standpoint, the matchup itself is strange. The Giants' offense has struggled all year to consistently move the ball, but they've shown flashes when defenses underestimate them. Their run game can get physical, and that's exactly the kind of thing that wears down a defense late in the season. On the other side, the Cowboys' offense has been wildly inconsistent. There are stretches where everything clicks, and then entire quarters where it looks stuck in neutral. That inconsistency is another reason why a win here might not mean much. Beating a Giants team that's also looking toward the future doesn't suddenly fix the bigger problems that showed up all season long. Now let's talk about draft position, because this is where the rooting guide really comes into play. Every loss matters right now, not just for Dallas, but for teams around them in the draft order. A single win or loss can swing you several spots. We're talking the difference between landing a blue-chip player or settling for the leftovers. That's not exaggeration. That's how tight the middle of the draft order usually is. If the Cowboys lose in Week 18, they dramatically improve their chances of selecting an impact player without having to trade up. That could mean a dominant defensive lineman. That could mean a difference-making defensive tackle. That could mean a corner who actually locks down one side of the field. These aren't luxury picks. These are needs. So when fans ask, who should we be rooting for this week? The honest answer is chaos. You want teams ahead of Dallas in draft position to win. You want teams behind Dallas to lose. You want every tiebreaker to fall in your favor. And yes, that includes rooting against your own team, which feels wrong, uncomfortable, and almost taboo. But fandom isn't always about the short-term dopamine hit of a meaningless victory. Sometimes it's about swallowing the hard truth that long-term success requires short-term pain. The Cowboys have lived for years in the middle ground of being good but not great. This is one of the few chances to break out of that cycle. Of course, not everyone agrees, and that's what makes this conversation explode online. Some fans believe tanking is a loser mentality, and they're not wrong emotionally. They'll tell you culture matters. They'll tell you winning habits matter. They'll tell you that players don't forget how a season ends. And there's truth in that. But culture doesn't come from beating a backup quarterback on a non-playoff team in Week 18. Culture comes from accountability, smart roster building, and putting players in positions to succeed next season. If the Cowboys were one win away from a playoff spot, this would be a completely different conversation. They're not. Context matters. Another layer to this is what the coaching staff does. How aggressive are they? Do they empty the playbook? Or do they call a safe, vanilla game that avoids unnecessary risk? Watch the first quarter closely, because it'll tell you everything you need to know. If the Cowboys come out conservative, rotating players early, limiting snap counts, that's not an accident. That's a message. If they come out aggressive, throwing deep, blitzing constantly, that's pride taking over strategy. And pride has gotten this franchise in trouble before. And let's not ignore the locker room aspect. Players are always playing for something, even in meaningless games. Some guys are playing for contracts. Some guys are playing for roster spots. Some guys are playing for tape that might get them paid elsewhere. That's why tanking is never as simple as fans think. You can't tell professionals to lose. What you can do is control situations. You can evaluate young players. You can give snaps to guys who need development. You can rest veterans quietly. That's the subtle version of tanking, and it happens across the league every year. So here we are. Week 18. Cowboys vs. Giants. A game loaded with rivalry, emotion, and implications that go way beyond the scoreboard. Whether Dallas wins or loses, the real evaluation starts immediately after the final whistle. Draft position, free agency plans, coaching decisions, player futures. This game is less about the final score and more about what it unlocks next. And as uncomfortable as it is to admit, a loss might be the most honest step forward this team can take. Now I want to hear from you. Are you rooting for a win because it's the Giants and you never want to lose to them? Or are you rooting for the long game, the draft position, and a smarter future? Drop your take in the comments, because this fan base is split right down the middle, and there's no easy answer. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for daily Cowboys news and rumors, and stay locked in, because once Week 18 ends, the real madness begins.